Okay, long time no see. This is a video on my trigger mechanism that I created for this gun, which I'll try to draw back and show you. I'm doing the engraving right now on the handle, and kind of out of focus there. Pretty happy with how that came out. Show you the hole. You can see there's a brass bushing down in here that this catch mechanism goes through for the firing pin release. This I got this taped because I'm getting ready to engrave it with Dremel. Put a couple of grooves in there. I'm going to go ahead with the leaf motif type design on this trigger guard. I got on Amazon. I got a couple of brass screws there to hold this on, but there's very few bought pieces. So I want to go over how I made this particular mechanism here, this release mechanism for the firing pin. This pin, probably out of an engine that I had laying around. I used it to shape this brass strip, because this was all one strip of brass at one time, and what I did was, if you look close, you can see solder. So I bent the actual trigger finger guard first, got that shape, then I molded to the handle this layer. So what I did was this layer and this layer is one solid piece. At the end here I folded it, but you'll see there's solder in here too. So I soldered it, folded it, soldered it. Then this top piece where the trigger hinge mechanism goes, that pin, I shaped and clamped in a vise and then soldered. But yeah, the tricky part was shaping and positioning the hinge mechanism for the trigger so it would align, halfway with the catch point on the firing pin when it was fully cocked. That was kind of a tricky deal. And here is where this spring sets, and this little indentation here. Let's go over the trigger real quick. After I say one thing, this was pretty difficult to solder neatly, because when you clamp it, it draws the heat out of the piece you're trying to solder. So it was kind of like clamp it here and then clamp it there and solder it, As you can see, a thick layer of solder right there, but you're not going to see that because it sits in to the stock. Yeah, this is a piece of stainless steel pin with a roll pin through it and a spring on the end of it. But this trigger was one piece of stainless steel, and I split it down the middle, which, as you see, it's not quite perfect. And I just filed a couple of indentations for that roll pin, and I got it where it would squeeze around this pin here. So while I'm assembling it back up in the gun, it just doesn't fall apart. It kind of squeezes it a little bit, but it's got some play to it. So it can wiggle loosely around just a little bit. I played with the idea of actually cutting a hole through the center and making a slot, and then narrowing, instead of slicing this in half, just put a narrow piece through this pin where it would push down and release the firing pin. But I went with this design because it just kind of holds it in place and aligns it better. I'm sure there's a couple other ways you could do it. Well, many ways. But I'm getting ready to engrave this trigger, and I don't exactly know if I'm just going to do a border or what on that. But yeah, I'm going to put the leaves. As you see, this is already comes pre-scratched because this is a piece of used metal. But I'm just going to put a leaf or branch motif in here too. Definitely not going to scratch it up any more than it was originally when I got it. But I also made it so you can put it together very easily, and it mattered to me that as soon as you pull it out, it would just fall apart. So that this is maybe easier to do some kind of adjustments to it. Which there is an adjustment because this wood shrinks and expands. So sometimes I have to put, and these are homemade nuts, these brass nuts that hold the actual barrel on. They're not, if you look at them, they're not completely centered. And that's the way my drill press works around here. Anyway, that helps because what I can do is tighten these up. I can get them tight, but I can also turn them to move this barrel back and forth to be more where I want it for the firing pin release. And yes, I did walnut stain it in there and seal it, which probably a little bit of a mistake because it changes everything, you know, the thickness of that clear coat. But yeah, it's really worked out great. This piece fits better after I've worked on it some more. I like it. But thanks for watching this video, and hopefully I'll be back with another video on this other gun thing I'm making. Anyway, see you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.